A whole civilization will die tonight. Terrifying words from President Trump, words we've never heard from any president until now. President Trump is giving Iran until 8 p.m. tonight, which is less than 4 hours from now. Here's what the president told Iran in full in a Truth Social post. Quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will." End quote. Now, we have a clock on the screen where you can see the countdown. We have no idea whether the president issued this threat as a strategy or if it is real. We only know we are 3 hours and about 59 minutes and counting. Iran and the United States, though, are not the only nations watching this clock. The entire world is watching and waiting. Trump says the United States will strike hard unless Iran makes a deal prior. What kind of deal?
We have to have a deal that's acceptable to me. And part of that deal is going to be we want free traffic of oil and everything else.
But despite the 8 p.m. deadline, already today the United States is striking Karg Island. The island sits about 16 miles off Iran's coast. It's about 1/3 the size of Manhattan. It is Iran's economic lifeline. It is their oil hub. Karg Island handles about 90% of Iran's total crude oil exports. It generates between $30 to $60 billion a year in revenue. 8,000 people live on Karg Island. We have team coverage from the White House to the Middle East, and we begin at the White House, where at this hour President Trump is also watching the clock. White House correspondent Mike Carter joins me. Mike?
Hey, Greta, good evening. Well, the UN envoy Iran's UN envoy today saying Iran is promising, quote, immediate and proportionate reciprocal response to any potential U.S. strikes on Iran tonight. This, as you just mentioned, the clock down continues to 8 o'clock Eastern time when President Trump says the Strait of Hormuz must open or else. Today will be power plant day and bridge day all wrapped up into one in Iran. There will be nothing like it, says President Trump. Well, yesterday, the president detailing what may lay ahead for Iran later tonight if no deal is struck by 8 o'clock.
We have a plan, because of the power of our military, where every bridge in Iran will be decimated by 12 o'clock tomorrow night, where every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding, and never to be used again. I mean, complete demolition by 12 o'clock. And it'll happen over a period of 4 hours if we wanted to. We don't want that to happen. We may even get involved with helping them rebuild their nation.
Well, meanwhile, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Vice President Vance, who's in Hungary today to support the re-election of Viktor Orban, continuing to work on a potential ceasefire deal ahead of 8 o'clock Eastern time tonight, though Iran on Monday reportedly rejecting the U.S.'s 45-point proposal. Vance says he's confident the White House will hear from Iran tonight, one way or another, before time runs out.
We feel confident that we can get a response, whether it's positive or negative. We're going to get a response from the Iranians by 8 o'clock tonight. I hope they make the right response, because what we really want is we want a world where oil and gas is flowing freely, where people can afford to heat their homes and cool their homes, where people can afford to transport themselves to work. That's not going to happen if the Iranians are engaged in acts of economic terrorism. So they've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use.
President Trump says the Iranian people would be willing to suffer attacks to their infrastructure if it eventually led to their freedom. And today, Greta, Iran's president Masoud Pezeshkian says more than 14 million Iranians have volunteered to register and to give up their lives to fight for Iran. The Iranian officials, the Iranian government, calling on young people to stand locked arm in arm around power plants this evening. And we'll see what happens now. 4 hours from now. Greta?
Mike Carter at the White House, thank you. Middle East correspondent Zach Andrews joins me from Tel Aviv, where it is 11:04 p.m. Zach?
And it's 11:30 in Tehran right now. And 39 days ago, Operation Epic Fury for the Americans, Operation Roaring Lion for the Israelis. It began with the death of the Ayatollah, dozens of top generals, and one of the greatest displays of air power in modern military history. Tonight, we're hours away from President Trump's deadline and a fresh threat today that a whole civilization will die tonight if Iran refuses U.S. demands. Now, the president says there is a plan in place to destroy every power plant and bridge across a nation of more than 90 million people. And tonight, as Mike said, Iran's president says he and millions of other Iranians are prepared to sacrifice their lives. Now, hundreds of people were seen earlier today in regime-run television reports linking arms, gathering outside of power plants and across bridges. They're waving flags of this current regime. They're forming human chains in some of these areas, and these images have been verified and geolocated as authentic, taken today at several of these locations across the country. They began a gathering earlier in the afternoon. It does appear that this is still ongoing after nightfall in Iran, and reports that children have been enlisted to shield these sites as well tonight. Nerves are shot across the region. U.S. ally Qatar, they have just reported they've repelled another Iranian ballistic missile attack. Qatar is warning that we're approaching a point where, quote, it cannot be controlled, the war here. In Bahrain, Americans have been told to shelter in place until further notice. And our Israeli sources are sharing there's a high probability tonight that Iran's retaliation could be significant and region-wide. Estimates are pinning their remaining missile force at roughly half of what it was before the war began. Now, reports claim that Pakistani leadership are still trying to contact Iranian negotiating teams and pass messages back and forth. They're still trying to reach a deal tonight, even right now. And Pakistan's Prime Minister has just posted that he has proposed as a goodwill gesture to his Iranian counterparts that they agree to a 2-week ceasefire and as a goodwill gesture reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians are reportedly positively reviewing this request from Pakistan, but we are up against the clock here, and U.S. B-52 bombers have been seen tracked taking off from their bases in Europe. Their expected flight time would put them over Iran right as the deadline expires. And Greta, those B-52s, they've been in service for decades. A lot of people remember their military might, how it was used in Vietnam, carpet bombing. They have the ability to carry a massive amount of ordnance. So seeing these B-52s in the air right now heading this way is a sign that we are about to witness the president's threats come to fruition if Iran does not agree to a deal. Again, we are up against the clock, less than 3 hours, or less than 4 hours now, Greta.
Zach Anders, thank you. Retired Navy SEAL and former Deputy Commander of Central Command, Vice Admiral Robert Harward joins me. Nice to see you, sir. Nice to have you on the set.
Good to be here with
All right, I suppose your guess is as good as anybody else's, but your thoughts as we sort of face down this 8 o'clock time, and the president, who is unpredictable, but he's coming off a big win over the weekend, rescuing those 2 airmen.
He sure is, and I think his message to the civilization refers to the regime and all those who support the Islamic Revolution. That is a civilization that should go away, not the people of Iran. This is the Persian Empire, and that's what most of those 90 million people understand, and they want to be part of that sort of culture and nation that goes forward and lives and prospers well. But eradication of the regime and that ideology is a civilization that many people have wanted to see eradicated for 47 years. So I think that's his message. And you're right. Who knows what we're going to see tonight? Is this deception? Is there going to be carpet bombing at Bandar Abbas and along the coast to ensure that free flow of oil moves on? So this president has been very astute at deception, and this could be part of his strategy.
Well, we're on call, all of us tonight. We don't know how late we'll be working or whether or not. What I love that you bring to the table is that you went to high school in Tehran, so you bring an added experience besides your military experience. But the people of Tehran, is there any way to, I mean, they're listening to Iranian media, and I suppose they're getting a vastly different story than what we're reporting here.
Sure, but there's other forms of communication. So I'm in touch with some of my friends and colleagues in Iran who are cheering the activities and all. So there's a lot going on in the country right now. And you don't know if those people forming the human chains are doing that at gunpoint. As you've seen, they're out in the streets murdering anyone who dissents. So, hey, come out and support the rally or we're going to schwack your mom at home. So you just don't know how desperate this regime is, the means they'll do to stave off and try to survive the President Trump and this administration. But that wouldn't be beneath them.
You know, what was always sort of stuck with me since the beginning of my reporting on this is Steve Witkoff was on this show. And he said that the foreign minister was bragging about the fact that they had enrichment to 60% and they were 10 days out, or they were the short time away from 10 nuclear weapons or something. And, I thought, that all of a sudden then it became an existential threat to us. It wasn't about, regime change. It wasn't about something else. But once you put nuclear weapons in the hands of a country that says death to America, death to Israel, and has funded Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, that it was an existential threat.
Well, you've nailed it. And there's an existential threats on a couple different levels here. To the local population, of course, from this oppressive regime, to the region and our allies, UAE, Qatar, Saudi. They present, as you're seeing with these missiles and what they're able to do now, they could have done that any day they wanted to those countries, and closing the Straits of Hormuz, which presents a threat, not existential to those nations, but also Europe. And then, more importantly, the Islamic Revolution. When they came to power, and they've been saying for 47 years, we're going to eradicate Israel, we're going to eradicate the West, and we're going to make sure everyone lives by the Sharia law we dictate. So those are two existential threats. But let's look also more strategically. Iran with ICBMs, as they shot at Diego Garcia, and having nuclear weapons, which, as you noted, they were a week away from being able to produce, added to the capabilities of Russia, kind of puts you in a Cold War scenario where our adversaries had, and when I say our adversaries, against the United States and Europe, facing more nuclear weapons from more directions than we had, was an existential threat to the West. So at so many levels, this is problematic.
What do you make of the fact Saudi Arabia has always been at odds with Iran, because Iran are Shiite Muslims and Saudi Arabia are Sunni Muslims? But why is it some of the other Middle Eastern countries haven't stepped up before this?
Well, because they didn't have the capability to, the scale. Don't forget, Iran is 90 million people. And I think the religion aspect is maybe a screen to the bigger issue, Arabs versus Persians. And they were significantly outnumbered. You're talking about 90 million.
But they didn't ask us for help either. I mean,
who didn't ask us?
Saudi Arabia for years is not. I mean, this has been boiling for the last 47 years.
Of course, but we were always the counterbalance. They didn't have to say it. Everyone knew it. And now when it reached this stage, we asked. And again, our policies in the region have been very cyclical. Don't remember under the Obama administration, one of his first policy statements was, we're going to pivot to the Pacific, which meant we're leaving the region. You're on your own, Saudi. You're on your own, UAE. You're on your own, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. We were abandoning it because it wasn't in our national interest. So they've had to deal with this cyclical policy from the U.S. and not having the trust or confidence we were going to be there when they needed us. And I think you saw this when Trump was elected. They were all very happy because now they went back, and what had become the status quo in the region, not only did they not trust the United States, no one respected them, and worse, no one feared them. We've changed those dynamics significantly now. Now countries fear us. Deterrence is back on the table. And Saudi, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, no, we are looking after their national interests. I think that's going to play out here in our commitment to the end state of what this is going to be, and not allowing Iran to reconstitute and resume the threat they were to these regional allies of ours.
Well, we're less than 4 hours from maybe finding. I mean, the president may just be maybe he's talking about 5 hours. I mean, you never know with this president. He surprised us, so we don't know what's going to happen. But we're all on standby tonight. Vice Admiral Robert Harward, thank you, sir.
Good to be with you.
And we have some good news. Last week, an American journalist was kidnapped by militants in Iraq, and now she has been released. That's according to the Associated Press, citing an anonymous Iraqi official. You do know how I feel about anonymous sources. I do hate them, but whatever. Shelley Kittleson is a 49-year-old freelance journalist. She was kidnapped while standing on a street corner in Baghdad. Her kidnapper militants are known as Kataib Hezbollah. The militant group is backed by Iran. Earlier, the group said Kittleson must leave Iraq immediately once she is released. It's unclear what the militants had demanded in exchange for her release. Coming up, check the clock. We are inching up on 8 p.m. President Trump gave Iran the 8 p.m. deadline to make a deal. We have a reaction from Iran when the record continues.
Hey, my man, we're asking people what happened to global warming.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think it's a facade. I think it's fake.
They used to talk about global warming a lot. This is the coldest I think I've ever felt in my life these last 5-6 days.
It's definitely been a lot colder than I remember growing up as a child.
Are you Newsmax?
Yes, ma'am.
My dad is a World War II veteran. He fought in World War II. He's 101. He watches your show in Arizona all the time.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist recommended Dermend and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle.
Does it ever feel like society is going up in flames, yet people don't have the strength to care? There's a hidden reason for that, and it may surprise you. Testosterone levels in American men are at an historic low, and it's testosterone that gives men the energy to be men. Support your own natural testosterone production with Chalk. Go to chalk.com/TV1 for your $17.76 discount. Chalk's all-American customer service team is standing by.
Aging isn't something that happens later. It's happening right now. We age because our cells age.
Fatty 15 helps to reverse aging on a cellular level.
And just one daily capsule has over 36 cellular benefits.
Basically acts like an armor for your cells. You should definitely try Fatty 15.
Before Apoquel Chewable for allergic itch, giving dogs pills was a battle of wits.
Oh, Maria, I'm wise to your foolish game.
Is it gone?
Totally gone.
Relief for itchy dogs can be easier. Apoquel, the trusted #1 treatment for allergic itch, is available in a tasty chewable that works fast.
May cause worsening of existing parasitic skin infestations, serious infections, or pre-existing cancers. New neoplasias have been observed. Do not use in dogs under 12 months of age with serious infections or in breeding, pregnant, or lactating dogs.
Ask your vet for Apoquel Chewable.
Do it!
Check your watch. We are 3 hours and 43 minutes away from President Donald Trump's deadline of 8 p.m. Eastern for Iran to make a deal. The president has threatened to bomb Iran's key infrastructure if they do not come to the table. So what is Iran doing? Well, today, Iranian officials urged his people to form human chains around power plants. Yes, you heard me right. Here is Secretary of the Supreme Council of Youth and Adolescents, Ali Reza Rahimi's video statement during an Iranian newscast.
من از همه جوانان، ورزشکاران، هنرمندان، بچه‌های دانشجو و دانشگاهی و اساتیدمون دعوت می‌کنم فردا سه‌شنبه ساعت 2 ظهر دور نیروگاه‌هایی که داشته و سرمایه ملی ما هستند بدون توجه به هر سلیقه و دیدگاه سیاسی مال آینده ایران و مال جوانان ایرانی هستند.
Iranian journalist Mohammad Reza Mousavi joins me. Nice to see you again, sir.
It's always a pleasure.
Do you think this gentleman thinks President Trump is kidding? Or does he think that they have such a force that they can fight the United States?
Well, actually, from what I've learned from the past is that Iranians nowadays take President Trump's threats really seriously. I talked to many people in Tehran and also other parts of the country who were really worried. On the contrary to the past few weeks, people are panic buying. In the past few weeks, it's a surprise, but they were not panic buying. But now they're worried. They don't know what will happen tomorrow, local time, and they're really worried. So I think that the government is taking this threat seriously, and they're trying their best to do whatever they can to at least increase the price to cost of whatever President Trump is doing.
Well, what can be left of the government? I mean, I realize the RIGC was quite large, but they've been pounding him since February 28th. They've hit the Ayatollah. His son apparently is in very rough shape someplace, according to different reports. I mean, who's making the decisions? Who's running the place?
So we know that the Secretary of the National Security, Supreme Council of National Security, is probably the most prominent person remaining, along with the head of Judiciary. They may be taking the most important decisions. The Secretary of the National Security Council is very close to the IRGC. But the IRGC remains and is actually emerging as the most important power inside the country, to the extent that we hear rumors that the IRGC is taking decisions even over the president and whoever is left from the government to take decisions.
Well, in the very beginning, President Trump offered amnesty to anybody who wanted to lay down the weapon, basically, and stop it. I've always been surprised that the Iranian ambassador to the United Nations didn't take him up on the offer, because he's lived in New York. He's enjoyed New York, unless, of course, he has a lot of family back home. And in many countries, if you have family back home, they'll be executed if you abscond. But is he a loyal Iranian? The Iranian ambassador to the UN.
Well, I personally have never met him, but I know that the Islamic Republic has had this habit of choosing people carefully and checking their backgrounds, so they're not letting everybody get into their ranks. So we should know that everybody who's working for the administration or the government has been vetted strongly, and they may be, at least if they're not, infiltrators, they are close to the ideological bases of the government.
What do you think is driving them right now? Is it a sense of religion and passion and the religion, and that the rest of us are infidels? Or is it they have a sense of pride and they're not going to let the United States do this to them? I mean, what's the driving force?
So let me tell you about this duality inside Iran. When we talk about Iran and the Islamic Republic, we're talking about two distinct entities. So we have the Islamic Republic, which is an ideological regime. It has its own ideas and goals. It wants to wipe out Israel from the map. It wants to fight against the United States until the last drop of blood. But on the other side is Iran as a nation, as an old civilization, thousands of years of history. The Iranian people who are
beautiful
actually
history, beautiful art,
beautiful country.
No,
if you go
amazing,
to Tehran,
rich history.
Yeah, it is. It is. Tehran is still very beautiful on account of the damage that it has taken. When we talk about Iran and Iranian people, we're talking about a nation who wants to live. That's the only thing that they want. They never wanted in first place to fight against the United States.
But they're going to take a beating possibly tonight. Those people. I mean,
that's
those are the people
unfortunately the case.
I assume took to the streets and protested both in December and in January in 2012, and they're the ones who've been protesting, but ineffectively in terms of driving the religious leadership out.
So, well, they have been paying the cost of the ideological goals of the heads of state, the heads of the government. That's why I believe, I mean, if you want to help them, if you say help is on the way, you're not going to take away their life. I mean, the ordinary life that they're seeking. If you want to destroy the infrastructure, if you want to leave them without power, without water, without natural gas, that's not helping people.
Well, except that there's no way to paralyze the the leadership. I mean, there's so many have been killed. They don't seem to be threatened by the fact of death. I mean, how else would you do it at this point?
Well, in the beginning of the war, people thought, probably including the U.S. administration, that after killing the supreme leader, things would change, and people would take to the streets and topple the government. But those things didn't happen. They didn't materialize, and there is still doubt that if you do remove the infrastructure, the very same infrastructure that 90 million people are relying on, it maybe will not help.
What's the option? What's the option?
I don't know. That's the easy answer and the most difficult answer at the same time. I don't know. But I know that the war is not the answer. I talked to one of my friends today. One of the last messages that I received from Tehran was that we are worried about tomorrow. We are worried that our infrastructure will be gone, but the IRGC will remain in place. This is a very serious threat. Look at Gaza.
But you know what else is a serious threat is that the foreign minister, I don't know if he's still alive or not, I've lost count of it, told Steve Witkoff that they had enriched to 60% and they were 10 days out from either 10 bombs or 10 days out from a bomb. I forgot what it was. And that is a game changer when people like that regime gets a nuclear weapon.
Well, there were different narratives about that. It may be interesting to you. I covered Iran nuclear negotiations for 9 years, from 2013 to 2022, as I was working for a Japanese TV station in Tehran. Well, I know that we have the possible military dimension last year that belongs to the past, and I know that the Islamic Republic has had, still probably owns the large amount of 60% enriched material, and that is a threat to the region. If the Islamic Republic, with its, whatever the ideologies that they have to wipe out Israel and also fight against all of these regional states, including even the United States, it is a threat for the Islamic Republic to have access to a nuclear weapon. But look at what we're in now. I mean, still the Islamic Republic has access probably to the enriched material, and the war wasn't really the result.
Well,
I mean, it's probably still not too late to get Iran.
Well, maybe we'll get that
enrichment.
ceasefire that Pakistan's working on. It'll give us 2 weeks. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully.
Mohammad Reza Mousavi, thank you, sir.
It's always a pleasure.
Is Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, alive? Well, according to the Times in London, he is incapacitated and receiving medical treatment in the holy city of Qom. Qom is 87 miles south of Tehran, has a population about 1.4 million. The Times in London is reporting this from a diplomatic memo they have reviewed that is understood to be based on American and Israeli intelligence. According to the Times, Khamenei is in severe condition, unable to be involved in any decision-making by the regime. Iran has confirmed the new supreme leader was wounded on the first day of the war. He was hurt in the same airstrike that killed his father, his mother, his wife, and one of his sons. Coming up, will things get worse before they get better? That when the record continues.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
Think you need a new roof? Think again and save thousands.
We'll help you put off the high cost of a roof replacement for at least 5 years.
Or 10.
Or sometimes even 15.
We're America's most trusted roofer because we always try to save your roof rather than replace it.
We'll restore your roof for a fraction of the cost of a new one.
But don't wait. If your roof loses too much protective coating, it's too late.
Call now or scan the code and we'll give you an assessment of your roof for free.
Need blood pressure support? Total Beets contain a patented key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. That's why Total Beets is the #1 best-selling beets brand in America. Take control of your health with Total Beets. Search Amazon now for Total Beets.
What if you could have shades like these for a fraction of big brand prices? With Shady Rays, you can. We're an independent company, so we do things differently. We offer high-quality polarized shades for a reasonable price. And we personally replace shades that get lost or broken. So far, we've racked up over 300,000 5-star reviews. I founded Shady Rays so that we can have sunglasses that stand up to whatever life throws at us. Order now and get 20% off site-wide at shadyrays.com.
During the Omaha Steaks Spring Savings Event, prices are going down. Save up to 50% with entrees about $5 per serving. Order now to get 8 burgers free. This spring, watch the prices fall at omahasteaks.com/TV.
Oil isn't the only resource hit hard by global events. American farmers are sounding the alarm by fertilizer prices at planting season. Will this disrupt our food supply? Raising prices? Cause shortages? I'm not waiting to find out, and neither should you. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com, get a 3-month emergency food supply. They'll include $200 worth of extra survival protein absolutely free. After serving more than 3 million American families since 2008, you can trust MyPatriotSupply.com. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that. No needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. No mixing, filling, or storing your own syringes. Tirzepatide helps curb appetite and supports healthier eating by reducing cravings, including for sweets and carbs. And when your appetite feels under control, it can make it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. If weight loss has been on your mind, this may be the needle-free option you've been looking for. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint. Getting started is fast and surprisingly accessible. Just complete a quick online physician consultation. Here's how.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
We age because our cells do. Fatty 15 reverses aging at the cellular level.
And I find this is the one supplement that has helped me get the results I want.
Fatty 15 has over 36 cellular benefits to support your health. Use code TV for 15% off at fatty15.com.
Today, several gunmen opened fire near the building housing Israeli consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. Following that attack, the Minister of the Interior of the Republic of Turkey took to X to post in part, quote, 3 individuals who engaged in an armed clash with our police officers on duty in front of the Yapı Kredi Plaza blocks in Istanbul have been neutralized. In the clash, 2 of our heroic police officers sustained minor injuries. The identities of the terrorists have been identified. It's been determined that the individuals who arrived in Istanbul by a rental vehicle from Izmit includes one with ties to an organization that exploits religion, end quote. Now, according to the Jerusalem Post, Turkish journalist Mehmet Karatis confirmed that these gunmen had ties to ISIS. One of the gunmen was killed and the other 2 were injured. Turkish Justice Minister Akin Gürlik has assigned 3 investigators to look into the incident. Meanwhile, the world's watching the clock to see what happens when we reach President Trump's 8 p.m. Eastern deadline. Experts warn of severe consequences if the U.S. follows through with its threat to strike Iran's power infrastructure. Some experts say the impact will be felt far beyond Iran's borders, will be felt abroad and even here at home with the elections and the economic impact already felt by many Americans. Lawmakers still on spring recess amid the partial government shutdown are commenting from afar, not from work, but from afar, on President Trump's threats. House Democratic Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries took to X today saying, quote, Congress must immediately end this reckless war of choice in Iran before Donald Trump plunges us into World War III. It is time for every single Republican to put patriotic duty over party and stop the madness. Enough, end quote. House Oversight Committee Chair Republican James Comer responds to war of choice comments saying, quote, Democrats won't support a single thing that President Trump and his administration seek to do. Comer adds in an interview on Fox that Republicans do not like spending more money on defense, but that it is a result of the Biden administration. CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp and former assistant to President Biden, Michael Larosa, joins us. Michael, first to you. In the old days, on issues of war, we did try to stay a little bit on the same team.
We did. We did. Even when we had incursions or interventions in places like Panama, I remember I read about the Sam Nunns of the world and the Chris Dodds, the Democrats who were supporting President Bush at the time, his intervention into taking out that dictator. Yeah, you're right. It's a lot more polarizing. It's a lot more political than I would like to see it. And I would like to give every chief executive the benefit of the doubt that when they go in to a country with our military, that they're doing it for necessary, justified reasons, urgency, and compelling.
Well, that's so interesting because if you look at the wars, Matt, is that World War II was an existential threat. Everybody agrees. Korea, not really a threat to us. Vietnam, not really a threat to us. Iraq, not really a threat to us. Kuwait, Afghanistan, no. This is an existential threat to the United States because this is a nuclear weapon to someone who wants to go. So this is like the old wars.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. And I was
My husband takes credit for that analysis, by the way.
It's good. I think to agree with what Michael was saying, which is in the case of Panama and things that were in our hemisphere, there was this understanding that like we wanted to have more friendly neighbors within our hemisphere. And also there was an agreement between the parties on stopping the flow of drugs. And that's what Panama was all about, these cartels and stuff, which are still a problem. But I like John's analogy, if I can say that, on Iran. Look, there is a difference of opinion, which there shouldn't be, but there's a difference of opinion on Iran. The Democratic policy was what used the old A word. It was appeasement. It was like, look, they're going to need to use it for domestic purposes. They're going to get the weapon eventually because there's so many nuclearized countries. Let's just kick the can down the road and make sure it happens later. Whereas Trump, and I remember seeing him at the rally on the Hill before he ran for president, he has stated categorically for a long time, Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. It's something he has been very clear about. No one should be surprised that he's going to take the steps necessary.
Well, he's not the only one. I mean, we've gone back through a lot of different world leaders that said Iran can't have a nuclear weapon.
And I think Democrats agree. I certainly agree that they shouldn't and they can't. And I would love to know the most compelling reason why we went in now. And I'm fine if there is compelling and urgency reason to show a threat. Because remember, Democrats did join a Republican president when he said there was a mushroom cloud that could form over the United States in 2002. He did get our support. And we did go in, and it turned out the intelligence wasn't correct.
Is this enough for you? Steve Witkoff was on. I keep going back to this. Steve Witkoff was on this show. And he said that he's in the negotiations, obviously, is that the foreign minister, in the last meeting with the foreign minister of Iran, he said that we have 60% enrichment, so we're not going to give up anything that we already have, 60%. And he said we're either 10 days out or we have 10 weapons around in 2 weeks or something like that. Yeah. And unless, so it's not an existential threat if the foreign minister of Iran was lying, or that Steve Witkoff was lying. I don't think Witkoff was lying to me. I think the guy did say that to Witkoff, and then it becomes an existential threat. If it's, at that point. Forget, the whole thing, the other issues that have arisen as to why.
Yeah. But I still don't think he has made that case.
Who's
the president, the chief executive. I don't think he's made the case because I think there's a lot of political risk
in it
for him.
I think there's a difference here. He's made the case that Iran shouldn't have a nuclear weapon and that he had actionable intelligence. I believe the numbers are much stronger on there. Where the numbers start to get weak, even in the CPAC straw poll we just did, is how long are we there? Are there ground troops involved?
That's within your own party. You've got people like Tucker Carlson out there, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You've got a lot of people who are very strong Trump supporters, and Steve Bannon, who are saying that, what are we doing there?
And more than that, I mean, a lot of people who are at our event, we're expressing some skepticism. Look, the way I look at it is this way. I'll take my own opinions out of it. The MAGA base,
that's the way you look at it.
The MAGA base.
So this isn't your opinion, though.
The MAGA base trusts Trump. He's put a lot of trust in the bank with these voters, and he's using that trust as kind of a credit because he believes this is actionable. There's a lot of people within the MAGA coalition, I more call it, who really are dubious on the use of offensive use of military weapons. People say a war of choice. It's somewhat true in the sense that Trump decided to act now. He decided to act now. The reason he decided to act now is because he believed he had actionable intelligence along the lines of what Witkoff is saying that put us at risk.
Is it an existential threat?
That's where I think if he makes the case on the timing.
Can he make it with? The media. Honestly, is anyone in the media going to? If he stands up and says that tonight from the White House?
Well, you read off Hakeem Jeffries' language, and it sounded so much like the language Democrats used back in 2006 when we were trying to win majorities based on the unpopularity of the Iraq War at the time.
But that was a war that really wasn't an existential threat to us. That was not. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
And Democrats went along with it because they made the case that there was.
Well, I think they went along is because the New York Times above the fold kept saying that Saddam had WMD, and everyone thought, well, if the New York Times is saying it must be true. And so the Democrats went around along with it, as did all the Republicans, as did everybody in the media.
Get the media in their tank every once in a while.
Well, the fact is, Vanity Fair did the cover story with the Bush War Cabinet, and they felt snake bit by what was said in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I also think there's a lot of conservatives who felt like they want to go back to the Reagan doctrine. Peace through strength. When you use the military, you use it very rarely and use it with excessive force, but you don't use it often.
But you're ignoring the existential threat. If the existential threat is real, that changes everything.
Well, what would Reagan do? I think if Reagan was alive today, I think he would agree with Trump. Iran should never have a nuclear weapon, nor should any jihadist government.
Everybody says that.
Trump's not shy about being colorful or illuminating or inflaming passions. I'm surprised
or his language.
He hasn't done that with the timing argument and the argument that John made.
Matt Schlapp, Michael Larosa, thank you both very much. Coming up, former President Trump pal Marjorie Taylor Greene taking swipes at the president. That one, the record continues.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
When it comes to my daily heart health supplement, I've got 3 rules. It's got to be plant-based, it's got to be doctor recommended, and it's got to be Super Beets from Human.
Super Beets is the #1 cardiologist recommended beet brand for heart health support with clinically studied grapeseed extract for nearly 2 times more effective blood pressure support than diet and exercise alone.
Super Beets works. I swear by it, and I know you're going to love it too.
Try Super Beets today at human.com.
Here's Chris Cunahan with the Leaf Filter Gutter Report.
From blizzards to downpours to windstorms or heat waves, no matter where you live, Leaf Filter keeps your gutters clog-free year-round. Schedule your free inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
What's gold is new again. Pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of Preserve Gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example, the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with Preserve Gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
Well, she's no longer in Congress, but that is not stopping Republican former Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene from speaking out when it comes to the war in Iran. The former United States Georgia representative responded to President Trump's Truth Social post this morning saying, quote, 25th Amendment, not a single bomb has dropped on America. We cannot kill an entire civilization. This is evil and madness, end quote. And speaking of Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know I love that. That's right. We have a midterm alert. Right now, voters in Northwest Georgia have already headed to or are heading to the polls in the state's special election runoff for Marjorie Taylor Greene's abandoned congressional seat. Republican Clay Fuller faces Democrat Sean Harris in this special election. Back in February, Republican Fuller received President Trump's endorsement, and he has supported the president's decision to go to war in Iran. Democrat Harris, on the other hand, opposes the war. A Republican win would strengthen the party's very slim majority in the House of Representatives. And she's back. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is back in the news. She hired former County Judge Shermella Williams as a prosecutor in her office. In February, Williams resigned from the bench after facing scrutiny for allegedly jailing a 21-year-old witness in what Georgia's judicial watchdog described as a move for shock value. Williams returned to the courthouse, this time as a prosecutor, not as a judge, and as a hire by Fani Williams is drawing attention. Coming up, NASA's released new pictures from the far side of the moon, and guess what they found? That when the record continues.
Need blood pressure support? Total Beets contain a patented key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. That's why Total Beets is the #1 best-selling beets brand in America. Take control of your health with Total Beets. Search Amazon now for Total Beets.
Does it ever feel like society is going up in flames, yet people don't have the strength to care? There's a hidden reason for that, and it may surprise you. Testosterone levels in American men are at an historic low, and it's testosterone that gives men the energy to be men. Support your own natural testosterone production with Chalk. Go to chalk.com/TV1 for your $17.76 discount. Chalk's All-American customer service team is standing by.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands or your back or your hips. I'm here to tell you that joint pain doesn't have to be a life sentence. Hi, I'm John Walsh. You know, for 40 years, I've been chasing down the culprits. And now I'm ready to throw the book at joint and muscle pain. That's why there's Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement. So I tried it, and it changed my life. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
Last week, I walked 6 blocks. I was so proud of myself. I ordered Omega XL, and now I have more energy than I ever had. It's been the best thing that I did because it relieves a lot of pain. Everything changed for the best. I can go out, I can hang out with my sisters, I can go anywhere, clean my house, do whatever I can and want to do. Now it's let's go, baby. This product is the best thing. You will remember what did it to you, and it was Omega XL.
That's the truth, the facts, and the hope that Omega XL can bring you. Case closed.
Call now or order online to receive our special TV offer. When you buy 1 bottle, we'll give you a 2nd bottle of Omega XL free. Order now and we'll also include a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. 2 free bottles for the price of 1 bottle of Omega XL. That's more than 50% off a value of $115. You pay only $49.95 and it ships free. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee. So buy 1 bottle now and get 2 free bottles with this offer. Call or go online right now.
If you're living with joint or muscle pain caused by inflammation, try Omega XL and see the difference it can make in your life.
Buy 1, get 2 free. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3 for only $49.95. Act now.
Rapper Kanye West has been barred from entering the United Kingdom. In July, the rapper, who now goes by the name Ye, was going to headline a music festival in the UK, but today the government barred him from entering the country. Why? Well, you might remember just last year, Ye released a song called Hail Hitler. He also sold swastika T-shirts on his website. In spite of these actions and other anti-Semitic remarks, he was still selected to headline a 3-day festival in the UK. This decision sparked criticism from Jewish groups and British officials. Ye tried to make amends. Back in January, he wrote a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal. He apologized and blamed his actions on a manic episode. But this was not enough. Today, Prime Minister Keir Starmer said, quote, Kanye West should never have been invited to headline, adding, quote, we will not stop in our fight to confront and defeat the poison of anti-Semitism, end quote. The festival where West was to perform has now been canceled. Ticket holders will get a refund. Meanwhile, astronauts aboard the Artemis 2 mission have flown farther than any humans have ever flown before, and they got photos for us. They are not just regular pictures, they are the first pictures taken from the far side of the moon. One of the pictures shows a sunset, but instead of the sun setting, it was the Earth setting. Another photo shows the moon eclipsing the sun. Other photos show the moon's ridges and craters. Speaking of craters, the crew found 2 new craters. The crew named one of them Integrity. That is the name of the Orion spacecraft they are flying on. The other crater, though, got a special name. Here is Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen.
There's a feature in a really neat place on the moon, and it is on the near side, far side boundary. In fact, it's just on the near side of that boundary. And so at certain times of the moon's transit around Earth, we will be able to see this from Earth. And so we lost a loved one. Her name was Carol, the spouse of Reed, the mother of Katie and Ellie, and it's a bright spot on the moon. And we would like to call it Carol, and you spell that C-A-R-R-O-L-L.
It was an emotional moment for the crew. In 2020, Commander Reed Wiseman's wife, Carol, died from cancer. Wiseman hugged Jansen, and then the other 2 astronauts joined for a group hug. Also, during the journey around the moon, the crew lost communications for 40 minutes. Why? Because they were out of range. But don't worry, they knew this was going to happen. Here's mission specialist Christina Cook once they got communications back.
Houston, integrity, comm check.
Integrity, we have you loud and clear.
Houston, we have you the same, and it is so great to hear from Earth again. To Asia, Africa, and Oceania, we are looking back at you. We hear you can look up and see the moon right now. We see you too.
After checking in with NASA on Earth, the astronauts also got a big call from the commander-in-chief.
The Artemis crew flew in the most powerful rocket NASA has ever made, ever launched, traveled over 250,000 miles, broke the distance record set by the legendary Apollo 13. And America is a frontier nation, and the 4 brave astronauts of Artemis 2 are a modern day, you really are modern day pioneers, all of you, and one of them happens to be a neighbor.
So where are these astronauts now? Well, they're making their way back home to Earth. On Friday, shortly after 5 p.m. local time, the crew is expected to splash down off the coast of San Diego. Coming up, we're a little more than 3 hours until Trump's 8 p.m. deadline to Iran. We have a live report from the Middle East. That when the record continues.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Appliances break down, home systems fail, which means I show up at every one store because I'm inevitable.
Unfortunately, something expensive is about to happen.
Is it the heat, plumbing, electrical, wiring, garage door, oven?
But we already have homeowners insurance. Actually, home insurance is for the unexpected disasters. A home warranty is for the everyday wear and tear that will cause your home systems and appliances to fail. So give the people at First American a call.
First American has had my back for years. It saved me hundreds. Just one call, and they send a pre-screened, qualified contractor.
Every home system and appliance fails. There's absolutely no avoiding it. But when the day comes, First American has you covered.
Home breakdowns are inevitable, but the expense, that's optional.
Call First American for a free quote that could save you thousands on inevitable home breakdowns. Call 800-714-4212 or visit FAHW.com.
Buying a new car? You need WeatherTech. Perhaps a nice used car. You need WeatherTech. Or maybe you're still driving Old Faithful. You need WeatherTech. No matter the age of your vehicle, American-made WeatherTech products are the solution. Because Maxxis don't care what year your vehicle is. See? You do need WeatherTech. Order your American-made protection at WT.com.
Simparica Trio protects against 3 categories of parasites.
Power of disease.
This drug class has been associated with neurologic side effects, including seizures. Use with caution in dogs with or without a history of these disorders. Don't just protect, triple protect.
The first time I experienced vertigo, the room was spinning, like I was in a clothes dryer. Then I started taking LipoBalance support. Its ingredients are clinically shown to help reduce dizziness and spinning. Take back control with lipoflavonoid.
Support your long-term health with Fatty 15, the science-backed, award-winning Pure C15 supplement.
Fatty 15 is reversing aging at the cellular level, and I know it's doing what I want it to do, which is improve longevity and wellness.
Discover more at fatty15.com.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Take a look at the bottom left of your screen. 3 hours and about 3 minutes. That is the deadline President Trump has set for Iran. If Iran does not make a deal that is acceptable to President Trump, the president warns, and a whole civilization will die. Middle East correspondent Jack Sanders joins me again from Tel Aviv. Zach, do you have any of the sort of a sense of unease? Are people watching the clock like we are here? I mean, we never know what to expect with President Trump. He said 8 o'clock, and he oftentimes does that to sort of surprise us, and he never wants to tell the enemy what he's going to do, so that 8 o'clock could be a wrong number. But how does it feel there?
Well, here is also another night of Passover, so a lot of the families together right now. The streets are quiet. The IDF is telling Israelis that there could be a large-scale retaliatory response. It would be, in my experience, quite surprising if the Iranians, with their limited missile capacity at this point, would decide to target civilian areas in Israel when they should be, you would think, conserving those missiles and those missile launchers to try and hit strategic targets, military targets across the region, U.S. bases in particular. We're seeing some developments here out of Pakistan, Greta. The Pakistani prime minister says that he's still in contact with the Iranian negotiating team, that they have pressed the Iranian side to agree to a 2-week ceasefire, that's it, and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That's the only 2 points that they want to spend the next 2 weeks trying to get the actual deal done, and that the Pakistanis are requesting of the Iranians right now a goodwill gesture, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, or really just stop targeting ships and allow those ships to transit and passage in exchange for a 2-week ceasefire. Now, we just saw the White House say that they have been updated by the Pakistanis, that they've received this message and that both sides are reviewing it right now. But like you said, we are up against the clock. So really any moment we could, as we are, watching bombs drop, we believe, from the Israeli side. We were told that the Israelis are conducting another wave of attacks right now, and there have been some explosions in central Iran. But of course, we'll be watching for the power plants and the bridges, as the president has threatened.
In some ways, I hate to be so flip, but how silly. How long does it take for you to consider whether we should have a 2-week ceasefire for the Iranians and to open the Strait of Hormuz? They must have been thinking about that before they got the note from the Pakistani prime minister.
Well, you know, there's an element to this where the Iranians have shown in many different experiences here. Now we go back to well before the 12-day war, when negotiations were taking place with Steve Witkoff in Doha, Qatar, or sorry, in Muscat, Oman. And the message every time any party, whether it's the Pakistanis, the Americans, or anybody else, sits down with the Iranian negotiating team, that nothing ever got done until a gun was to their head, and at the last moment they agreed to something. So it really feels like a negotiating tactic, or it did with the messaging in the last week or so. Until tonight, when we saw the jets take off in the air.
And that's it. Zach Anders, thank you. Thank you for watching. My colleague Ed Henry, The Big Take, is up next, and we'll be following this all night long here at Newsmax. Stay with Newsmax.